Ladies and gents, welcome back. Happy Tuesday. Good to have you here for our third 2015 Life on Tap event. Tonight we're covering web development and information technology. And I'm really excited. Two great guys here joining us. The first one, we actually didn't decide who was going to go first, but we go with seniority rule. The first one is Mr. Bryan Hadro, graduated in 2004. And he's pulled a couple of great stints at ESPN and all-around great guy. So he's going to tell a little bit about his backstory, how his Christendom education helped him, and then maybe give some insider tips. So, Bryan?
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for having me. My name's Bryan, and I graduated from Christendom in 2004, so way back in the day. I was a philosophy major and history minor. While I was at Christendom, I did a little bit of student council. I was a RA for a little bit. But honestly, by my senior year, I had no idea what I wanted to do. So I'm sure maybe like a lot of you, kind of still struggling with, what am I going to do when I get out? So I just say, don't worry. That's very normal, especially here. After graduation, I kind of didn't have much of an idea. I knew maybe I wanted to teach. I had worked with computers in the past, but never heavily. And I was always kind of discouraged from getting into, I liked computers, I enjoyed coding, but I was discouraged to get into it because I kind of looked around and thought, gosh, like people have been doing this since high school. Kids have been, studying this. They've gone to college for it. Like I'm at a huge disadvantage here, so I'm just not even going to bother. So I ended up getting into hardwood flooring for a couple years, and then when work got sparse, I got a job at Seton Home Study right up the street from here in their bookstore. And that was very cool for a time. I had a great boss, a little bit of creative flexibility there. I kind of got into a little bit of print design, and that's where the juices started to flow. And I was kind of started to get curious about getting into computers, getting into design. And at a certain point, though, that kind of dried up, and I was definitely looking for something more. And so I started asking around, and a couple people were like, well, hey, like you want to get into print design? We know this print designer, so go call him up. And I did, and he kind of talking to him, I said, hey, I want to get into print design. And he's like, well, I can encourage you to get into it, but it's kind of a dying industry, and what I'd really suggest is that you get into web development and web design. And so I did. And that's kind of a point I want to bring to you all as well is it's important to surround yourself, or to just have good people around you that you can consult with. Also when I was at Christendom, I kind of, I had been thinking a little bit about getting into architecture, so I talked to a couple alumni who were doing architecture. Pete Jansen, who actually doesn't do it anymore. But it's great to have just a group of people that you can talk to kind of, bump ideas off and get a little bit of guidance. And that's kind of what we're doing here tonight. So I also encourage you all, just to come up and talk to Brandon and I afterwards, and we'll kind of answer any questions you have. And hopefully can give you some guidance. Anyway, didn't get into print design. I happened to live at the time with Matthew Jalise. I'm sure some of you know him. He lives kind of down the road from here. He owns his own startup company, and he offered to hire me part-time, kind of learn on the job. So that's kind of how I got my start. It was kind of a little bit of a rough year, but through some good guidance from him and just my own effort in kind of studying up, I was able in a year to get a good job at a startup company in Manassas. And that's where I actually met Brandon. Brandon and I worked together for a while there. And that's where I really got into it as a career. Suddenly, it was a very cool job for a while. Just learning tons of new technologies, kind of just starting to really get creative and work on things. When out of the blue, a tech recruiter called me up. And He just said, hey, I'd like you to, or it's like, I'd like to interview you. And I almost hung up on him at the time too. It's kind of, when you're a web developer, at least right now, it's a very hot commodity. So recruiters will call you all the time and everything. But I think it's important to, treat them like people and not hang up on them as well. And this is a perfect example. So I took the call, did a couple interviews, and he's like, hey, yeah, well, I'm representing ESPN, and they would like to fly you up for an interview. So I'm like, holy cow, like this is kind of every guy's dream, right? Like, I don't know, I'm sure a lot of you know ESPN, Sports Center commercials and everything like that. So I was like, yeah, holy cow, this is great. So flew me up for an interview. I was like a kid in a candy store, just seeing famous people and seeing their studios. And I didn't do that great in the interview. And here's just something else I kind of want to bang home. In the web development field, it's not important, like appearances aren't important. Getting your resume together and your CV and everything nicely printed, that's something I spent a lot of time on. I went there, I had like a suit and tie and everything. And I get in there and there's guys in t-shirts like Brandon. And they're even kind of like looking at me with disdain. You're like, oh, you're wearing a suit, huh? And so, I kind of learned fast. And, and I didn't do that well. And I was thinking on the way back, I was like, man, I really wish like I had spent more time actually one, studying up on things that I needed to study up on and explain, but also two, spending time, just even months before working on various projects, something that I could demonstrate to them. So at any rate, I didn't get the initial job I applied for, but they called me back not long after and were like, yeah, well, there's this other job open we'd like you to take. So I did. And it was very cool working there. I'll kind of tell a couple stories, I guess, from my time there. There's working at a big company. ESPN's a huge company. It's about 6,000 people. And they have, email aliases like any company. So there's, up to, hundreds, if not thousands of people, on just one email address that you send it, and it'll send emails to everybody. Normally, you're just sending it to like 5 or 10 people. Anyway, one day somebody sent an email to the wrong alias, so it went out to 800 people, including the president of the company and a lot of the on-air TV talent like Scott Van Pelt. Can't remember any of the other ones on it, but there were like all the TV people. And then everybody started to reply all to this email thread. So when you reply all, it sends it to everybody. They're like, hey, I'm not supposed to be on this thread. What is this? Like in all these comments, just dumb people replying. And so it kept on spamming everybody with like hundreds of emails. And then eventually some people started to have fun with it. They would like chime in. They're like, go Buffalo Bills. Or they would say, like, who do you like in the Detroit Tigers series this weekend? So anyway, eventually like the president himself like emailed back and was like, everybody stop replying all. And then after that, like 3 people emailed, so everybody was joking that those 3 people should be fired because they're just that dumb. But anyway, that was one story. Another one when eventually I got into the interview process up there where, they would fly people in all the time, and I would, be one of the people interviewing them. And one of the parts of the interview process, they'll take you on a tour of the studios, which is very, very cool. So I'm taking this kid through the studio, and Jerry Rice, the Hall of Fame receiver for the 49ers, is walking down the hallway. And he doesn't know me. I've, seen him around campus. I know who he is. So I'm just, hey, Jerry, how's it going? And he's like, hey, how's it going? And he walks by, and the kid's just like, you just said hi to Jerry Rice. I was like, yeah, I guess I did. Just kind of playing it off. But no, it was a very cool experience. I knew going in it wasn't my dream job, but it was very cool to work on just all the products they had. They had a great, huge team there. They had, they would have a hackathon every year, which is something where, they take 48 hours, divide all the developers up. You can pick what project you want to work on, and you kind of build something and then present it to people. So, you would present it to like the president of the company and like a panel of 5 other people. So it was very, very cool. And, and then you get to meet the president of the company and everything. And he would, he definitely had a devotion to the tech group up there. Excuse me. So anyway, but at a certain point, I kind of was looking to scale it back. I kind of wanted something smaller, and also I grew up in the area, so I wanted to come back to DC. So I think another thing I'll drive home is in the tech world, it's very important to kind of, you can't sit on your hands. You always have to kind of be learning. It's very challenging, but it's very rewarding. It's important to continue to learn, important to adapt. And I think initially when I was looking to interview, ESPN, having worked at ESPN would get me into any interview. But again, it's all about what you know. Like, they'll smell you like that. If you're not, if you're rusty, if you haven't been, studying as much as you should. So, I fast learned that and eventually studied up enough where I was able to land some good interviews and got a job currently at U.S. News and World Report, which is in Georgetown in D.C. So that's, again, kind of my very elongated story. But I'll kind of just go through some pragmatic things about kind of the field I work in. First of all, it's incredibly rewarding. There's like any job, there's tough times, but I have immensely enjoyed it. If any of you know the company 37 Signals, I believe it's one of the founders, Jason Friedman, was giving a talk that really hit home to me, where he was soliciting from the audience how many people were coders, and a lot of people raised their hands, and he's like, that's awesome. Like, how cool is it that every day, like, you get to build something? Like, it's very true. Like, you're kind of, it's a little bit like playing with Legos every day, but you get to go to work, you get to come up with ideas, you get to problem solve, and with, unlike any construction company, there is no startup cost. All you have to do is have a computer. The software, there's so much software out there, so many great websites and resources that you can kind of learn whatever you need to know. You can start building today. And that's absolutely something I would encourage each and every one of you to do. Like, don't be, if you're even a little bit interested, try it out. Like, there is, like, all of you, I'm sure, have a computer. Like, you can come here, download things over Wi-Fi. You don't even have to have an internet connection to build things. Like, you can install everything on your computer in an environment and work on it, and just see how you like it. Like, again, I found it immensely enjoyable. So, let's see, something else. I'm trying to make sure. I would also highly recommend, so I know I mentioned, surrounding yourself with career mentors, but also in the job arena, always surround yourself with like good, knowledgeable people. I can't encourage you enough. I think the DC area is truly one of the top tech places in the country. There are so many cool startups, so many great people. When Brandon and I were working at Trinity Consulting, like, we would, take the metro into DC and go to different meetups and just meet all sorts of people. That's pretty much how Brandon got his job at Include. He'll talk about that. And I continue to go to those meetups to this day because, like, you kind of need to surround yourself with knowledgeable people. You need to be challenged. You need to kind of feed ideas off of each other. So, I'm glad I stuck around this area for a couple years. Front Royal is very cool. But at the same time, don't hesitate to, like, cities are, say what you want about them, but they are creative hubs. And there's just a lot of opportunity there, a lot of people to meet. So I enjoy immensely working in the DC area, and I just find it very cool. Like, and also, you can't beat the diocese here as well. I mean, I guess I'm not trying to pitch, like, to everybody stay here. But, like, the diocese is awesome here. The tech groups are awesome here. And just the people in general. There's, like, a lot of cool young professionals, a lot of different colleges, Ave Maria, Steubenville, Dallas, and everything, as well as Christendom. So it's very cool. Let's see. Yeah, and again, I would also say it's very important in the tech field to be able to adapt. You kind of, it's important to have, like, your own niche in it, like your own, like, the one thing you do as a member of the team. But you also have to be willing to take risks, learn new things constantly. I would say, the industry's, it very much is always changing, so you have to be able to adapt. Let's see. So, yeah, I would say that's immensely important. There's no, we kind of live, say what you want. We no longer live in a world where there are 50-year men who, work at the men or women, work at the company. And I've been working in DC too long, so I'm very PC. Working at the same company for a long time. Oftentimes, you're going to change. You're going to be forced to learn new things, and you just have to embrace it. That's just the nature of it. So, and use it to your advantage. Like, companies might not hang on to people for that long, but also that means you have the freedom to go anywhere you want and really do anything you want. So just kind of, silver lining, play it to your advantage. Another pragmatic thing I'd say, the web development industry can be, of like a very liberal persuasion, morality-wise, like, people, there's just not a lot of people who are very religious or anything like that. And I'd say, that's just the nature of it. I'd say, especially you're going to be working with people who don't hold your worldview, that have different lifestyles, that, are just not very, incongruent with the Catholic faith. I think first and foremost, it's important as a Catholic to treat them respectfully, and just to, it's good to have differences, it's good to debate, and it's, but I guess what I'm just trying to say is sometimes that can cause for some awkward situations. So, you just want to try to like, I'm me being the kind of diplomat, I always kind of like just try to play it, like keep it out of the workplace in terms of like if you're going to have those debates and stuff like that. But, just generally speaking, I just want to let you all know that, yeah, you'll come across, people who disagree with you, people who have different lifestyles, and, just be prepared for that fact and be, a good ambassador to them. Be a good Catholic Christian representative. So, yeah, and a little bit about, so like I said, I had no tech training, and I would honestly say that was not really a problem. Really what, everybody's looking for is, do you have a college degree, and what do you know and what have you done? And, that's, they don't care that, you were a philosophy major, they don't care, like, they just want to make sure that you know your stuff. So I'd say don't let that hold you back. I would say that my education here at Christendom also helped immensely with regard to kind of just cultivating a desire to learn. When I was here, initially, like a lot of people, I didn't really give a crap about education, or maybe even, I wasn't like the best Catholic. But through my time here, I really grew to appreciate what Christendom had. I grew to appreciate the courses, the professors, and the faith. And for me, it was very much, it was awesome to be able to go to the professors and kind of talk to them about just about anything. I mean, the fact that they're at lunch, that doesn't happen anywhere else, or very few places. And it was just immensely rewarding to go over course material, ask questions, and it really just instilled in me like a desire to learn and a desire to be challenged and get out there. So I'd say, that is a huge thing that I've kind of come back to as well. So I don't know how long I've been up here. That's kind of, basic points that I wanted to cover. I don't know if we'll do Q&A now or Q&A later.
We do it at the end, that way they can.
Okay. Cool. Okay. So Brandon up next. Awesome. Thank you all.
Thank you very much, Brian. Like he did mention, there will be time to ask questions at the end, so if you have any, put those in your pocket and throw them out here at the end of the talks. Next up, we have an 05 grad who I'm sure everyone here has gotten Nvites before, but he has a company called Nvite, so he's going to tell a little bit about that. He's representing for the company. So without further ado, Mr. Brandon Vaughan.
Hey guys, Brandon Vaughan. Graduated in 05, got married in 05. And I ended up, I did construction during my summers. Graduated a year earlier than I was supposed to, and got a new wife, ready to go, take on the world, and needed a job. So best place to look was my father-in-law, who was running a web development company. I'm a philosophy grad, so I was like stoked because he ran a Catholic website, catholicculture.org, if you guys haven't seen it. So I got hired, and I was going to write a culture section for the website, and I was going to get to do philosophy. I wanted to be a philosophy teacher coming out of college, and then I got married, and the whole graduate school thing kind of didn't line up, so I decided to do this and was super stoked. They were like, okay, since this is a web thing. Why don't you write some HTML, put some content in a page, show that you can get the beautiful stuff you're going to write up on the web. So I did that. I ended up designing it better than they had their current designer design it. So they said, actually, we need a designer, and you can make us money rather than write this philosophy thing that's not going to make us any money. So I said, oh, okay, I've never done HTML, I've never done design, I didn't even really understand how a computer would work. So, okay, let me figure this out. And they said, just go figure it out. We'll give you some books, go online, and we'll give you as much time as you need. So that's what I did. I hit Google. I got really good at Google. I tried to meet people, to learn. That was a company, Trinity Consulting. I ended up working with Brian. Brian came on, and I just tried to dive in and saturate myself. I found some good people online who are willing to teach, and I will say one thing, this industry, if you want to learn, the whole community, the whole entire industry is all set up to teach. Everybody in the community wants to build on each other's shoulders because we all completely understand how dependent we are. Literally, we're always taking, oh, you built that tool? Okay, I'm going to use that tool. Oh, you built this one? Oh, I'm going to use that. And then I'm going to try and improve that, and I'll push it back to you, and I'll push it back to you. And so it works great to learn. You can learn super quick. So I did that. Company kept going, and it ended up getting to a point where I needed to move on. I had my second child and a third coming, and I thought, you know what, this is the best time for me to start my own company. So I jumped ship. I had a great graphic artist at the company as a consultant who was running his own shop, and I kept talking to him about how do you do this, how do you save money, how do you start your own business, especially a web business, because it's not like you're going to get to just go hit the streets and get web work. You have to hit the internet and get web work. And how do you do that? And so he really encouraged me. I saved up a little money. I got connected with a guy who worked for IBM. And he ended up having this weird thing where IBM will they'll take their chief marketing guys, they'll fire them, and then they'll consult with them. And they end up getting more money than they did when they were working, because they don't have to pay health insurance and all that great stuff. So it worked out great. So I built an application for IBM. And I was running my own ship. Cash flow was crazy. If you start your own business, which you can, and I really encourage anyone who wants to get into web, try it out. Just try it out. Try and start your own business. Try and get clients. Charge them money. It's crazy how much money you can charge for web. Crazy. You'd think, oh no, I can't charge that. Oh yeah. Think in terms of thousands, tens of thousands. I mean, it's crazy, right? But you can do it. So we did that. And then, like Brian was saying, we were meeting with people, and we would get out into the community. That's definitely one thing I would say. Christendom is a beautiful and wonderful area for you to meet like-minded people and have a tight-knit community. But the world is big, and there are a lot of people that have, in the industry, that web industry is focused about building communities. It really tries to drive that home. Because the irony is, even though it's online, we are constantly trying to take what's on the internet and make it human again. And then it goes back to the internet. And then how do we make it human again? And we're constantly trying to fill and feed that gap. And community is a big thing. So Brian and I would go to these communities. So one day I was at one of these called Refresh DC's, a meetup, and the owner of a web agency in DC that I really loved, and they had a great team, and Anyways, I said, you know what? I'm going to buy him a vodka and tonic because I love vodka and tonics, and I bet this is the guy to do that. So I did. I bought him a vodka and tonic. He was floored, and he remembered my name. And that's all it took. I was nobody to him the day before I bought him that. But from that day forward, I was the guy who bought him a vodka and tonic. And so a couple months later, he needed a web guy, and because his web guy left, who happens to be my employee now. But anyway, so I signed on, and he said, you know what? Like, I remembered you. I knew what you had done. I got to see your work finally and look back up, and you made a connection. You made a human connection. And that is something that you all know how to do really well, especially from your faith. But you know how to make human connections, so use that, leverage it. So I was having a third child and had to debate, do I want to stop doing this thing for myself or take a salary and get steady income? And I thought, well, steady income sounds cool. So I did that. So had the third child about a month or two after I started. And I got like 3.5, 4 weeks of paternity leave, right? And you're like, what? But yeah, so like in the web, the thing is, depends. There's large companies and small companies. Now, I've always worked with small companies. But the small companies, people matter. And so they want to invest, and they're not investing in anything other than you. What they want to know is that you are capable of learning and achieving and driving your industry forward. And so they put their money where their mouth is, right? And so that's what they did. And it was awesome. And so I worked there. We built some great things, built for some amazing brands. And that kept going, and it got so good. We were working, one of our primary contracts was with Apple and Oracle. And we kept getting a couple of bites from Apple to want to acquire us. And then Twitter ended up making a call, and it was at the right time, right place. And they did it, what's called an acqui-hire, where they come into a company, they purchase the talent, and they give the owners a boatload of money, which I hope happens one day, right? But so they did that. Now they cut my company in half, and I was on the half that did not make the cut. So I flew out to San Francisco. I interviewed. I got to interview in front of some really talented people and found out that even really large, cool, hip companies like Twitter can interview very poorly. And they can find out, and you can find out that people don't know how to interview well. But Brian's point, it's very true. The only thing they wanted to know was what I had done and to prove that they could check a box off that I had completed or pushed my industry in a particular way. Now, I'm a philosophy major. I kept riding the train, look, it's better if I am super cool and know a bunch of different things. I know all these types of languages. I can do a little of this and a little of that, and Sheikh of Morocco over here. But the problem is that when you're looking at a company, a large company in particular, when you want to interview with a large company, they have a lot of people, and they're all doing one thing, and they're doing it very well. So if you want to get into a large company, find that niche and learn it. Learn it, dive deep. You know how to do it, you know how to study, you know how to get excited about something, do it. Get excited, learn, and focus in. So long story short, didn't make it. I ended up working for another company. We kept the brand, and I did that for a year. And that company kind of drove the culture to the ground, in my opinion. But that being said, my boss, he did a year. My old boss, he did a year at Twitter, and then he jumped ship. And he came back to DC and said, you know, I got all this money now. I want to do something new. And we had done a side project. So again, like the whole concept Ryan highlighted, like side projects, like learning to just test things out, do things. At my old company, Include, we did that all the time. Every month and a half, we would come up with some new concept that we were going to try out. And one of them was a Christmas party event. So what we did is we built an application that we were going to do our Christmas party on, and our designer made all of these little penguins. And the penguins had funky glasses and afros and different types of body shapes and all this stuff. You could go on and you could select all your little options. So you could customize your own little penguin. And then that would animate when it would come in, and you could sign on with your social media and do all this fun stuff. So we did that. I built that. It was a lot of fun. It was just a Christmas hack. Didn't make any money, but it was fun. So he came back and he was like, I got a great idea. Why don't we build a company around this idea? And we'll call it Nvite, because we don't like eyes for some reason. Because my old company was called, it's Include, right? Well, it's not. It's Nclude. It was Nclud. So this is Nvite, but it's not Invite, right? It's Nvite. So we're constantly looking for N-words, how to do that. Yeah, so anyway, so my old boss said, now that you have 4 kids and you don't like your job, why don't you jump ship and become a co-founder with me? And I said, wow, like, that sounds totally awesome. So I'm gonna get to start a company with you and make nothing with 4 kids. That sounds so cool, and you've got all this money. And he said, no. I'm gonna go ahead and we'll get you settled, and we'll start it together. We'll make it happen. So I said, let's do it. And sometimes in our industry, in particular in web, taking leaps and leaps of faith, right? Essentially, that was a leap of faith. I had 4 kids. There is no way that prudence entered that decision. But you have to take that leap of faith, and it will pay off, because God, he's funny, but he likes those leaps. He likes those leaps. So within a matter of a couple of months, we had prototyped. We started getting bigger brands together. We hired we got another co-founder on the staff, and then we got a 4th, so we had 4 co-founders. And within a year, we started looking for funding, and we started fundraising for our series. Our seed series is what they call it. And we got that, raised $1 million, started hiring, and we started hiring all the old employees that we had from our original company. Relationships matter. You find good talent, you keep good talent. So when you make a relationship with somebody, it counts, it will hold, because those relationships, people value when they find good talent. When they find somebody that knows something, they will hold on to you, or they will pass you around to somebody else. So it's worth making connections. So that's my story. We're trying to make a boatload of money, build a great product. The product is an event platform. We sell tickets. We do a bunch of social stuff that integrates with that so that it makes it super easy and fun and highly designed. So that's that. That's me. For y'all, how do I start? First thing I would say, actually, is to all the ladies in the room. Web is something that is very conducive, and I really encourage all of the ladies in the room to definitely give it a go. It's awesome in that you can do it whether you're single, whether you're married, whether you got kids. You can do it at home. It's awesome that way. I mean, it's so flexible. You can make a good amount of money as a supplemental income, or you can deep dive into it. I mean, you tend to be quite creative, and it is an environment where there are very little boundaries. It's constantly ebb and flow. I did web design, so there's differences. There's web development, web design, there's front-end development, back-end development, but regardless, I've done them all, and web design, like doing the artistic stuff, super awesome. We had an intern at Nvite, Una. She was awesome. She did design. She was a graphic artist. She did web development. She's now working at IBM and making awesome things. So I would definitely encourage y'all to jump in, give it a try. I would say that liberal arts education is super helpful, and like Brian said, to be learners, to just take something and run with it. I would definitely encourage you to deep dive when possible. Find something that piques your interest and find out about it. Learn about it. If it's a particular web language or whatnot. I would say, what else? Some good thoughts. I think one important thing that maybe I could end with, because I've probably been up here too long. The point about that Brian made, I'd like to piggyback on with regard to just the industry and liberal tendencies and whatnot. One of the greatest things that you provide and that you have here at Christendom is that you are being built into a stone, and a solid stone. And this world is being shaken constantly. I see it in my industry all the time. My industry changes every single week. There is something new I could learn. There are people that are coming in and out of my industry all the time. And there are people that are struggling in my industry with alcoholism, workaholism, you name it. Like, there's all kinds of issues that people face. You have and are being made into a solid stone. And when you go out there, God will use that. He will make you firm amidst a very chaotic world. And He will do great things. And your life around you will go crazy sometimes. I mean, crazy. I can't tell you how many times my life has flipped upside down and back around. And I thought, where am I going? What happened? Like, my company just dissolved. Like, what am I going to do now? And now I'm a co-founder of a company and all this stuff. But I have been given through Christendom, and I really encourage you. You are a solid stone. Be excited. Jump out there. Don't be afraid, and have a lot of fun. This is an awesome industry, and there is a ton of work. You will get paid more, and you will find more work than many other industries. So that's it. That's all I got. Thank you, Mike.